Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today is Wednesday, July 5th, 2023, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. An L.A. Sheriff's deputy body slams a black woman as she is recording her husband being arrested. The Sheriff's Department calls the video disturbing. Protest will take place in a couple of hours. We will show you the body cam footage. Also, video shot by a bystander. We'll also take a look at the recent violence that gripped the country over the 4th of July holiday weekend. We'll break down the violence and examine if California governor's proposed 28th Amendment to increase the age to buy guns could help curb the rising trend of gun violence. The Supreme Court's decision to overturn affirmative action in colleges has ignited concerns about the future of diversity scholarships. We'll speak to a higher education scholar about the potential implications and explore ways to ensure our children can access education. Plus, India Arie has some words about the performances at Essence Fest this weekend. Speaking about Janelle Monae and Meg Thee Stallion, we'll show you what she has to say. Also, take your phone calls about what she called and others degrading the culture. It's time to bring the funk. I'm Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Folks, in California, 2 Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputies are under investigation after a video shows the officers violently detaining a black couple. Now, the officers responded to a report of a robbery at a store in Lancaster on June 24th. An elderly black couple, matching the description of the suspects, was waiting outside the store when the first deputy arrived. The video shows the one deputy giving orders to the man who explains to the officers he told the store to call the police in concern of a robbery and waited for them to arrive. Watch this.
Get on the ground, dude. Get out. Put your hands on the hood. 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 Listen, have a seat then. Have a seat. Have a seat. Have a seat then. Have a seat. Have a seat. Have a seat.
They approached us first, man.
Hey, Kirk, I'm making contact now. He's on call. Get down. Sit down, dude. We'll figure this out.
We ain't getting wrong. I told him what you want.
Well, if you sit down, we'll figure that out.
We just walked out.
Can you just have a seat on that rock?
I told him to call the police, bro.
All right, just chill out.
But look, when I stand up,
hold on, dude.
I waited for you. I could have took over and get over.
Hey, Kirk, this is a mound and the female's gonna be in the car.
I stand up with my cake, sir.
Just have a seat, dude.
The dude was talking crazy, man.
What's going on, dude?
He got the camera, bro. He come up, I need ordering some shit, right?
Just relax.
We're gonna pat you down, buddy.
I don't have nothing.
They said there was weapons.
We don't know that.
Man, I don't have nothing, brother, but a pack of cigarettes. See, there go this. Now what? I'm not even being resistant.
That's life over there.
Huh?
All right, dude. You're not.
I'm not under arrest for what?
You're not under arrest. You're being detained.
Detained for what? For what?
Dude, calm down.
What have I done? I haven't stolen no gas. Man, I can bust loose. Why y'all doing this shit, man? boss, why y'all doing all this?
Dude, relax. Or you're gonna get put down. Dude, just...
Man, my wife is paralegal. Oh, my arm is fucked up, man. My arm is fucked up,
Where's
man.
Wayne? Right here.
Tell her, place it on my arm.
No, you can't touch
Have a seat.
Hey, wait, don't
Have a
tell me
seat.
you do that
Have
to
a
my
seat.
wife. Come on,
Have a
man.
seat.
Why you doing this to me, man?
Calm down.
We ain't even did nothing. Dude,
See, deputy's involved in a fight.
I'm not gonna fight you, man. You put in my
Have a
wife, she got
seat.
cancer. She got cancer, man.
All right, dude.
Man, come on, bruh. I'm not gonna fight with a deputy. You cool. Hey, you a deputy, you cool, bro. I'm not gonna
Calm
fight
down,
with you.
dude.
I calm down. Let me shut up. Can I shut up?
No.
I'm on sticky ass bushes, man. I hit my
Deputy's
sister.
on a fight. Let me get to you and it's called a
man,
winko.
come on, man. Y'all don't have to do this shit, bro. That's wrong, man. You gotta do that too. She got cancer, big bro. Man, don't do her like that, man. Let me
Dude, calm
shut up.
down, man.
No, I ain't doing nothing. Let me shut up. I swear to God, I'm not gonna get up. You got my word, boss. You got my word. I'm not gonna get up. Man, she got cancer, man.
Well, why are you guys acting like this?
She's acting like that because they waited, rolled up on us. Hey, the guard came up on us, bro, like, that's all he did, bro. Everybody said, I want to get violent with nobody.
Have a seat.
Bro.
You got her?
Yeah, man. Man, babe, you all right? No.
Let me get 902.
She got cancer, bro. She got cancer.
Arie is switching and
Oh, you know, her phone.
Okay.
Give me the phone. I'm not doing nothing, man. You can't fight. I'm not fighting with y'all.
Hey, dude, calm down.
I am, but she just mad because
111, if you can, are you in the parking lot, the window?
she got cancer, man. Oh, man, it's my credit card and stuff.
I can't see why.
Just whoa. Let me calm it down. Let me calm it down, bro. Oh, man, my arm, bro, my arm.
You can't bossing me around and throwing me
That's Stop. Just quit. Stop it.
I can't.
Just stop.
Have a
Just
seat.
relax.
Have a seat.
Yeah, bro, hold on. I want to make sure she's all right,
She's
man.
all right. Sit down.
I'll sit down. JC, just cooperate, JC.
Have a seat in the car.
She ain't gonna do nothing, bro.
Have a seat in the car.
We didn't even leave, sir. We didn't
You're making
leave.
it worse. Get up.
I just,
Have a seat.
doing
So
what?
so put her in the back seat. She can
I just
calm
want to make
down.
sure she all right, man.
You're gonna have consequences.
All you had to do was listen.
I didn't do anything. You was mad because I videoed and put it on YouTube.
Fire station.
That's why you was mad.
It's a C-111. We're going to have 2 detained. Then we just have fire and a sergeant, Winko, and 1 extra unit.
I have asthma.
Okay.
111, 10 for you have 1 homicide and 110 responding, 110 Sam just with 97 and fire is staging. We'll advise them it's clear to enter. Confirm.
Hey, firm.
Watching on this side.
Just confirm, is it for deputy or suspect only?
Suspect only, pepper.
Can you, whoever's by me, can you move? Because I need to spit.
Let's go. Put your
And
feet
I'm
up.
okay, 111, just confirm, is that a definite quick one?
All right, go ahead.
I can't. I'm not going to be able to breathe because I got asthma.
And 111 advising code 4 is a deputy involved fight at the Winko.
Watch out.
Code 4 clearing the frequency at 1227 hours.
You all right?
Now, this next video is from the body camera of the second deputy who arrived on the scene. He is the one who violently attacked the black woman who was recording the incident.
Come here.
We're just gonna pat you down, buddy, big dog.
I don't have nothing.
Okay, relax. We don't know that.
Man, I don't have nothing.
Okay, we're just gonna
pack a cigarette. See, there go this. Now what? I'm not even being resistant. Huh? Wait. No, man. I'm not. Wait. No, I'm not under arrest for what?
You're not under arrest. You're being
Why are you detained for what? For what?
Listen.
What have I done? I haven't stolen up. Brother, man, I can bust loose. Why y'all doing this shit, man? Boss, why y'all doing all this?
Dude, relax. Or you're gonna
That
get put
man
down.
was threatening me, man.
Dude, just...
Man, my wife's a paralegal. Oh, my arm is fucked up, man. My arm is fucked up, man. I'm telling you, I tell her, place it on my arm.
No, you can't touch me. You can't touch me.
Get down on the ground. Get on the ground.
It's already on YouTube.
Stop.
Live.
I don't give a... Stop.
Motherfucker, stop.
Stop, you're gonna get punched in the face.
You punch me and you're gonna get sued too. You already got sued. I got it on camera.
Stop.
I
Turn
got
around.
it on camera. Get your neck off my. I can't breathe.
Hey, we're in a fight at the window.
I can't breathe. There's no fight. You threw me down to the ground. Stop manhandling me. I didn't do nothing. You threw me down. Call the commander. Call the commander.
Hands behind your back.
Call the commander. Stop twisting my arm.
Put your hands behind your back.
Stop. Commander, I'm not doing anything. Call the commander. Call the commander.
Give me your hand. Give me your hand.
I got my prescription glasses.
I don't care.
Eye surgery.
Put your hand behind your back.
Wait a minute, let me get my
You're gonna get sprayed again.
glasses out my hand. Yeah, man. My baby all right? No.
Let me get 902.
Put me to the ground. She got cancer. Put his knee in my...
Get up.
I can't see anything. Why are you manhandling me?
Because you were being detained.
Now you mad because I put it on YouTube Live and they saying everything.
Let's go.
That's why you mad.
Let's go. Stop fighting.
I'm not fighting. I can't see my...
All right, so here's what's crazy. The unarmed couple, they were cited and released. The sheriff's department did not release what the citations were for. Both officers, who have not been identified, were pulled off of field duty. LA County Sheriff's Office, the sheriff released, first of all, explaining why the body camera videos were released. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department has opened an investigation into this incident. While the department does not make statements related to ongoing investigations, Sheriff Luna has made it clear that he expects department personnel to treat all members of the public with dignity and respect, and that personnel who do not uphold our training standards will be held accountable. In the interest of transparency with our community, the Sheriff's Department is releasing body-worn camera video from the incident. Okay, so let's unpack this. Police get called. The folks who call the cops are the very folks the cops detain. And if you look at their actions, they immediately... How do you arrive on a scene but don't actually do any sort of investigation? Dr. Nyambe Carter, Associate Professor, University of Maryland School of Public Policy out of D.C., joins us. Teresa Lundy, Principal Founder, TML Communications out of Philadelphia. Dr. Larry J. Walker, Assistant Professor, University of Central Florida as well. Okay, so this is where I am absolutely confused here. So if I'm the cops and I get a call from the store, I would think, Nyambe, and I want y'all to go back to the beginning of the video, I would think that when I arrive at the store, my first thing would be to the store manager, what's the situation? What's the problem? Why are we here? Roll the video. Now keep us, give me a split screen. So what I got here, the cops roll up, pull the audio up.
It's on the hood. Put your hands on the hood.
So stop right there, So Nyambe, he immediately gets out of the car. And he starts talking to the man, and he hasn't even determined what's going on. Am I the one who think this is crazy?
Absolutely not. It's a black face in the vicinity, and they just went to the first person that they thought had committed a crime. I mean, didn't de-escalate, like you said, didn't ask a question, didn't do anything, immediately starts ordering this man to put his hands on the hood and treating him like a criminal with no information. There were probably hundreds of people in that parking lot, in that vicinity at that time, yet all he saw was a black face, and he immediately goes to, all of these procedures that would seem to affect an arrest. And of course, if you're a person who's done nothing and said, I told them to call the police, I waited for you all, he's telling them this, and you still are talking about put your hands on the hood, sit on the curb, do all of these things that would make you a suspect, you're right, you're going to get people who are upset, who are going to have, their cockles raised because they're like, wait a minute, you're not about to arrest me. You're not about to take me down and treat me like a criminal. And that's exactly what happened here. And as you noted, they pepper sprayed these people and then they cite them and release them because they knew these people hadn't done anything. But I think at this point, they had gone too far down the rabbit hole and felt like they had to make a show of force. They had to do something to justify why they treated these lawful citizens like trash, essentially. No one should be treated this way.
I'm sitting here, Teresa, again, go back to the beginning of the video, y'all. Again, let me be real clear. They get a phone call. There's a black couple. They roll up, and the first black couple they see, gotta be them. And you're basing this off of a phone call. You don't know who called. You don't know the story. You have no information. So I'm just trying to understand how, if you're the cop, how do you just roll up? Again, turn the audio up.
Get on the ground, dude. Get out. Put your hands on the hood. 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 Listen, have a seat then. Have a seat. Have a seat. Have a seat then. Have a seat. Have a seat. Have a seat.
They approached us first, man.
Hey, Kirk, I'm making contact now. He's on the call.
Now hit
Get
pause.
down.
Hit
Sit
pause.
down, dude.
Hit pause. Now, Teresa, if you were standing outside of a store and a cop rolls up and the first words are, put your hands on the hood. For what? That is the natural reaction of somebody innocent. For what? You just roll up and just start barking out orders for no reason whatsoever?
As my sister said, we black people has always been seen as the aggressor instead of someone, that is a citizen, that is paying taxes, that is just an equal part of society. And so when we still are continually having these issues where we're not being treated fairly, we're not being seen as a human being, these are the issues that are happening continuously, and why protests, why racial equity trainings, why DEIs are still happening all across the country is because we have these police officers that are either new, undertrained, or feel like that they have more power than those individuals who actually live in that community. So it's unfortunate that, again, we're still seeing, even 50-year-olds, they look like 50 plus, husband and wife, and she's literally recording, trying to make sure that her husband is good so it doesn't go to a next level. But you have the officers who's not even particularly interested in the situation at hand, not going into the store, not doing their part as police officers, which a part of that is investigating the situation before we put handcuffs on. But again, if we're only seen as the aggressor and someone, that, again, just because of the color of our skin, we promote fear, which it shouldn't be as such, because we're not the aggressor. We're the ones going in and out of a store trying to get home to our destination.
Here's the thing right here, Larry. Go to my iPad, please. Go to my iPad. This is the LA Times story. Lancaster Sheriff Station deputies responded to a reported progress robbery at a Winco Foods grocery store when they encountered a man and a woman who matched the description of the suspects given by store security guards on the 911 call. So, Larry, here's what I want to hear. I want to hear the 911 call. I want to hear that they say an elderly black man and black woman. I want to hear that they say the black woman had black jeans on, the color of shirt that she had on. That's what I want to hear. Because if the description was black man, black woman, any black man or black woman in that parking lot was automatically a suspect.
Roland, this is another example of criminalization of black bodies. We talk about it on your show all the time. It's ongoing. It's been happening for years. And first of all, it breaks my heart to watch this video to see how both of those, citizens are treated by law enforcement. But this is an ongoing situation. So obviously there's going to be, an investigation. There certainly will be a lawsuit. But I think what's really important is that these individuals, these law officers, once the investigation is complete, we can't simply say they should be suspended. If you're treating citizens like this, then you shouldn't be a member of law enforcement. And it's important, once again, of course, we talk about there's going to be black folks that are going to, come together and ensure that these individuals are going to be held accountable. But we can't have them just get a slap on the hand and then a year or 2, 3 years down the line, there's another more violent encounter, perhaps in loss of life, with one or both of these law enforcement officers. But we can't, and as black folks, we're just sick and tired of watching these videos. We're also tired of being assumed to be guilty of something when, as you said, simply sometimes, whether we're walking in the mall, walking outside, in our cars, wherever we are, there's always an assumption of guilt before gathering all the information. As you said, he should have talked to someone from the store to gather more information, to figure out what was going on, and then had a very peaceful conversation, normal conversation with this gentleman if necessary. But to ask him immediately to accuse him and be accusatory and suggest automatically that he was the individual that's been accused of whatever crime they thought was committed is unnecessary. You add in the age, and that he also highlighted his wife has cancer, and that the other law enforcement officer pepper sprayed her and threw her to the ground. That individual, that law enforcement officer, should not be allowed to carry a badge and a gun anymore, because we can't continue to allow this to happen.
And I need people to understand, this is real simple. Imagine if those cops got the call that it was a robbery, got out of their car, guns drawn. Those folks could have been shot.
Absolutely.
This right here, folks, is when we talk about, well, this is a problem. Hold tight 1 second. I got to go to a break. When we come back, more on Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Star Network. We will talk about so many other stories. First and foremost, Arie, boy, she had a lot to say about Essence Fest this weekend. Also, mass shootings took place all across the country on July 4th. What in the heck is going on? Plus, we'll talk about how Republicans now want to get rid of minority scholarships. What did I tell y'all in my book? It's called White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Get your copy, download it on Audible, get it from Target, get it from Amazon, get it from Barnes & Noble, get the book. I'm telling you, I've been trying to tell y'all all this was happening. People told me, other networks with white producers have said, oh, no, we don't like your title. Well, everything that keeps happening, I told you it was going to happen. Be sure to get that. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Join our Bring the Funk fan club, of course, by sending a check and money orders, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal or Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shooting.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hey, what's up? Geek Today in the place to be. Got Caked Out Your Mama's University, creator and executive producer of Fat Tuesdays, a air hip-hop comedy. But right now, I'm rolling with Roland Martin, unfiltered, uncut, unplugged, and undamn believable. You hear me?
All right, folks, 2023 is on track to becoming the deadliest year for mass shootings in U.S. history. That's according to the Gun Violence Archive, who's been tracking this data since 2014. So far this year, there are recorded 351 mass shootings. Yep, 351. Over the 4th of July weekend, 23 mass shootings left 21 people dead, 130 people injured. The deadly shooting happened in nearly 20 states, including here in Washington, D.C. In Chicago, 30 people were shot, 3 fatally in different parts of the city. One of the incidents involved an 16-year-old boy who was shot in the arm while walking on a sidewalk early Saturday morning. Now, in the South Baltimore neighborhood of Brooklyn, community members enjoyed a yearly celebration called Brooklyn Day, when a mass shooting took place. And just last night, a heavily armed gunman in a ski mask and a bulletproof vest opened fire on the streets of Philadelphia, killing 5 people and wounding 2 boys before surrendering to police. Now, the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, has proposed a 28th Amendment to the Constitution and the quest for gun control measures. Now, the new amendment will add protections, including raising the minimum age to own a gun from 18 to 21, requiring universal background checks, setting up a reasonable waiting period for all gun purchases, and prohibiting civilians from buying assault weapons. Now, adding a constitutional amendment requires either a 2/3 majority vote by both houses of Congress or a constitutional convention convened by 2/3 of state legislatures. Sarah Bird Sharp, Senior Director of Research at Everytown for Gun Safety, joins me right now. Glad to have you here. Sarah, first off, all we keep hearing, whenever we talk about police brutality, we keep hearing Cops need more resources. Cops need more money. Cops need more of this. Yet we keep seeing all of these mass shootings. And I've yet to hear somebody explain to me the amount of money we keep spending on law enforcement. Is it slowing down mass shootings?
Yeah, and mass shootings are unfortunately only the tip of the iceberg of our gun violence epidemic, right? Because if a mass shooting is 4 or more people who are shot and either killed or wounded, then 99% of what's happening is other shootings on our streets and in our neighborhoods. And I would say that the good news is that there are a lot of programs that are showing incredible promise. And those are programs that are led by communities and that take members of the community to work to try to mediate and to interrupt retaliation and gun violence. And those are the kind of programs that I think are showing, huge promise and are really important to fund.
All right. So where are those programs taking place? What cities, what communities?
So those programs are all over the country. There's street outreach programs that employ workers sometimes who themselves have come, have been involved in crime in their, when they were younger, and they're trained to sort of mediate and to prevent things, particularly risk individuals. There's also really great programs in hospitals across the country that support for a gunshot wound, and that's like a unique moment of opportunity to engage them, to prevent them from retaliating when they get out and from being readmitted, a few months later. Those hospital violence intervention programs, robust research shows are really working, and they're happening in hospitals in cities across the country.
So if we have examples of that working, why aren't cities doing more to fund those efforts, to promote those efforts? Because we keep seeing these problems.
I mean, it's a really great question. And the craziest thing about it is that you can save so much money from these programs. I mean, one, homicide, costs a city millions of dollars in all of the costs. And yet one summer employment program that takes a kid who would otherwise be sort of unmoved, have any structure in their day, and gives them, mentorship and training job for the summer is, $3,000 or so. It's a really, really important ask, and we strongly support these programs, and we are doing research to study them, to understand, why they work and where they work best.
Let's talk about this amendment Gavin Newsom is proposing. I mean, look, we've got so many red states. I get the point. We can't even get that bill through Congress. How in the hell are we going to get 2/3 of the House and the Senate and then get the states to ratify it?
I think my energy on the kind of programs that you just, would be put on the kind of policies that you just talked about at the beginning, because those policies, in states where they exist are shown to work, background checks on all guns so that we can prevent the kind of shootings that we had this weekend of people who should never have had access to a gun in the first place. Background checks are, in a bunch of states, and in those states, research shows that they work. The other one that you mentioned, really important, is the minimum age, right? In a number of states in this country, you can, when you're 18, buy a long gun, including an assault weapon. How does that contribute to public safety how could that possibly contribute to public safety in our communities?
Well, you're absolutely right. And again, I just think, I get his point, but I think a 20th Amendment is a long shot in this country. It's been a long time since we actually added a constitutional amendment. Came very close in the late 1960s, but that is simply so difficult. I think, frankly, it's a lot easier if you change the makeup of the House and the Senate to actually get these actually bills through. But of course, it's going to face stiff opposition from gun-loving Republicans in this country.
Yeah, like I said, I prefer to put my energy on the kind of policies that, robust research is showing us actually do save lives, actually do reduce assaults and homicides and even gun suicides as well. And one of the things, there are more guns in this country, we all know, than people, right? So that's the fact that we're working with. But responsible gun owners know to keep their guns stored securely, unloaded, locked in a safe and separate from their ammunition. And those are the kind of programs and policies that I believe we need to put our energy into.
All right, then. Sarah, I certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much, and keep up the great work.
Thank you so much.
Folks, going to a break. We'll be back. Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Star Network. We'll be talking about India Arie. Of course, guy had some words for the Essence folks after performances this weekend that she said was degrading. Plus, Republicans in Wisconsin, on the heels of the affirmative action decision by the Supreme Court, they now want to get rid of minority scholarships. Really? Are we serious? Yep, they're serious. We'll break all of that down. Also, we open the phone lines up to talk about both of these issues. Give us a call, folks. 202-890-1199, 202-890-1199. If you want to weigh in and share your thoughts on those two stories, we will do so. 202-890-1199. We'll be right back.
My early days on the road, I've learned, well, first of all, as a musician, I studied not only piano, but I was also drummer and percussion. I was all city percussion as well, so I was one of the best in the city on percussion.
There you go.
Also studied trumpet, cello, violin, and bass, and any other instrument I could get my hand on. And with that study, I learned again what was for me. I learned what it meant to do what the instruments in the orchestra meant to each other in the relationships.
Right.
So that prepared me to be a leader. That prepared me to lead orchestras and to conduct orchestras. That prepared me to know to be a leader of men, they have to respect you and know that you know the music. You have to be the teacher of the music. You have to know the music better than anybody.
There you go.
Right, so you can't walk in unprepared.
Next on A Balanced Life, we're talking everything from prayer to exercise to positive affirmations and everything that's needed to keep you strong and along your way. That's on a next A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, on Black Star Network.
Bruce Smith, creator and executive producer of The Proud Family, Louder and Prouder, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, welcome back to Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Cannabis continues to be an issue where it's being legalized across the country, but the military still tests for cannabis use. Matt Gaetz, Congressman from Florida, he wants that to stop. It was proposed in the National Defense Authorization Act. He contends that with the increasing number of recruits who test positive for marijuana use, that, you know what, it's time to change this. Really, another amendment would explicitly allow military members to consume CBD products that are legal under federal law. That was proposed by Republican Tony Gonzalez of Texas. Go to our panel. Larry, I'll start with you. Does this make sense?
It does. Obviously, we just saw a few days ago, July 1st, recreational marijuana use became legal in the state of Maryland, and there are a number of states throughout the country that have legalized recreational marijuana. We also have to recognize, Roland, that we need to change the policies that relates to how we view marijuana. But a lot of states, and particularly those in the Deep South, haven't caught up to what's happening today. But we know traditionally, Roland, for years, marijuana use Americans use marijuana consistently, regardless of race, ethnicity, or socioeconomic status. But I think this move is an important one. I think I might also add that that they're talking about the U.S. military, and obviously want to increase the number of individuals they recruit and who stay in the U.S. in the armed forces. But it's time for the federal government to catch up to modern society, not only in this issue, but other issues. But I think this is an important amendment. And once again, we've been fighting for years to decriminalize marijuana use. And I think this is another step in terms of recognizing this. Times have changed.
Teresa.
Yeah, I think it's well overdue. That we are still currently fighting here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for legalized marijuana, even locations to make sure we can have a base to even be a part of the cannabis program. So I think the steps are being taken. I think when other states more so start to follow the trend, Pennsylvania is a very interested state. So we're going to, keep fighting as we can and advocate. But I think if more voices actually, are coming to the table, we could probably get this through.
Niambi.
Well, I think we really need to listen to the service members here. I mean, they're the ones who are directly impacted by this. They're the ones who get in trouble for this. I do think we have to accept the fact that people are different now. Attitudes about marijuana are different now. And the service people that they're trying to recruit are coming from states most of the time that have already legalized marijuana and have very different attitudes about the drug. I think it's going to ultimately be up to service members and should be left up to service members what they think best, since they're the ones who have to live under these rules. They're the ones who have to experience the consequences that come from a zero tolerance policy where marijuana is considered. Alcohol is not illegal, and I think many will offer that marijuana is probably not as dangerous or lethal as alcohol. So I think the military is going to probably have to reckon with this if they want to continue to be able to recruit, quite frankly.
Interesting point. We'll see what happens there. Let's talk about New York, where Yusef Salaam, one of the Central Park Five, who was later exonerated, is now headed to the New York City Council. He's now being declared the winner. It was a very tight race there in New York, but again, he is now being declared the winner of the Harlem City Council primary. That is a huge move there. Of course, generated lots of attention. 1989, when he and several others were arrested in the case that attracted national attention. Now, of course, winning the primary, now moved to the general election, and pretty much is guaranteed to win that Democratic seat. I think right there, Teresa, it says a lot to have someone like Yusef Salaam, who is going to be operating in a public policy position. for him to win, and now gets to, and this is the same person where the city council and Bloomberg fought like crazy, Mayor Bloomberg, but they actually had to pay that big settlement to them. He now is going to be in a position to have an impact on public policy, especially when it comes to police.
Yusef is an example of what we should be looking for in our leaders. You know, he's not an advocate, he's actually a victim of the system. And so him even, understanding that the amount of issues and turmoil that he had to endure for 5 years, or, many years, I don't remember the number count, but for many years that he had to deal with prison, he had a very good understanding of what the lay of the land is inside. He could have went to law school, probably did, not sure. But whatever he did, he understood the system. The people love him. That it's not just the story. It's about what you do after the story is told. But he didn't allow the criminal justice system to really define his life. And I think that's probably, more so the staple of why, a candidate like him, fresh, anointed by the people, you could say, is someone that, you want to look to in terms of leadership, in terms of paving the way so other men and young boys, I think at the time he was young, so young boys don't go through the same issues and trauma that he went through over time. And so, again, if we can get, I'm all for the advocates, but if we can get somebody, who with that same mindset, who's really talking about change, to understand it from inside and out, then I think you can really govern not only a city, but, maybe a country one day.
Absolutely. Niambi, your thoughts about him again now headed to the city council?
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's a feat anywhere. I mean, New York has such a really complicated, incestuous political system. The fact that he was able to penetrate and be successful in one of the biggest cities, in one of the most consequential places anywhere, I think is huge. I think it is also speaking to the appetite of New Yorkers for probably a transformative leader. I mean, I don't know what else he wants to do post city council, but we certainly know this is one route to more leadership and bigger opportunities. But I mean, the city has been crying out from mayor to mayor, whether we're talking about from Giuliani to de Blasio and to now Eric Adams, for better representation of Black people in that city, to not have someone simply tell them, you get more police and we're going to give the police more overtime, but yet we still have housing concerns in that city, right? NYCHA has been under review, under investigation for many months. So you still have poor people in that city can't find any place decent to live, even from the city. We're talking about people who don't have access to market rate homes, right, because of the way that works. And so I think his election is speaking to not only the sort of criminal justice reform, but also the real lived concerns of the citizens of Harlem and the folks who are living in New York writ large. So I am really excited to see what he does with this city council seat, but also how he might bring others into the political process that might have decided they didn't want any parts of it.
The thing here, Larry, first of all, go to my iPad. This is the results. They had ranked choice voting, and so they had to finish the tabulation. Larry, Yusef got 63.8% of the vote. Inez Dickens got 36.2%. I mean, this is significant. And again, he now moves towards the Journal. It's a Democratic seat there in Harlem, so he pretty much guaranteed to win.
Roland, I posted this on social media last week. Congratulations, Dr. Salaam. This is quite an accomplishment. My colleague talked about New York City politics. I work for a former New York City congressman and know how tough that environment is to win at any level. But like I said, congratulations. I think it's also important to highlight, in part, him being part of the exonerated five and how we deal with issues relating to law enforcement, particularly in New York City. Roland, I just saw a stat that highlighted over the first couple of months in New York City that police chases have increased by like 600%. So someone like Dr. Salaam, who's been, it's like to be criminalized and put in jail for a crime he didn't commit, understands that and can fight for the kind of reform that we continue to see not only in New York City, but also other parts of the country. Lastly, Roland, another point I want to make is let's not forget Donald Trump's involvement and forget that ad he took out calling for the death penalty for the exonerated five. So it's interesting in terms of two politicians, Donald Trump and Dr. Salaam, in terms of the trajectory of their lives. But once again, I want to congratulate him. This is an incredible accomplishment considering all the barriers he had to overcome.
Absolutely, and I also think it's important for people to understand that it is, again, one thing for folks to complain about public policy. It's another when folks decide to actually run, to get involved in elections, in public policy. I say this all the time. You can't talk about you want to demand changes in public policy if you don't change the politicians. That kind of goes hand in hand, Niambi.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, New York is one of those places because it is so hard to break through. You see the same people over and over and over again. I think it's also important to note how that victory, you look at the margins, they're large, but how few people actually showed up to vote in this election, which also tells you how much people have sort of defected from the process and how much they stay out. I mean, people really don't pay attention to these local elections, but these are the kind of elections that matter. If you care about zoning, if you care about potholes, if you care about trash pickup, you care about having your streets clean, these are the elections that really, really matter. So I think him being there hopefully will be able to bring in not just fresh blood, but a new way of thinking about how business is conducted in that city. He certainly can't do it alone. I mean, the New York City Council is huge. I mean, there are over 50 members, but at least I think him being there can perhaps be a clarion call to other people who think they're too young or don't have enough experience, that they can actually become leaders in this city, and not just through what happened to them because of the tragedy, but because of how they use their life as an example, wherever they may find themselves situated.
All right, hold tight 1 second. We come back. We'll talk Republicans wanting now in Wisconsin now wanting to get rid of minority scholarships. Don't think for a second it will be the only state. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Also, folks, we want you to support us in what we do. Your dollars matter. When you give to us, it allows for us to be able to do the work that we do that nobody else is doing. So many people stopped me when I was in New Orleans for Essence, talking about how they enjoy the show, how important it is. And so and I met a lot of people who are contributors to what we do. So please join us as well. Send your check and money order, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. Check Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal are Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. YouTube, why we have 697 likes? Thousands of y'all are watching. Hit the like button. When I come back from break, we should easily be over 1,000 likes. I see y'all commenting. Hit the damn button. Also, get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Available at bookstores nationwide, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target. Download your copy on Audible. I'll be right back.
On the next Get Wealthy, did you know that the majority of households headed by African American women don't own a single share of stock? No wonder the wealth gap continues to widen. Next on Get Wealthy, you're going to hear from a woman who decided to change that.
Have been blessed with good positions, good pay, but it wasn't until probably in the last couple of years that I really invested in myself to get knowledge about what I should be doing with that money and how to productively use it.
Right here on Get Wealthy on Black Star Network.
Up next on The Frequency with me, Dee Barnes. She's known as the Angela Davis of hip-hop. Monae Smith, better known as Medusa, the gangsta goddess, the undisputed queen of West Coast underground hip-hop.
Pop locking is really what indoctrinated me in hip-hop. I don't even think I realized it was hip-hop at that time.
Right.
You know, it was a happening. It was a moment of release.
We're going to be getting into her career, knowing her whole story, and breaking down all the elements of hip-hop. This week on The Frequency, only on the Black Star Network.
Hey, it's John Murray, the executive producer of the new Sherry Shepherd Talk Show. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Now, I told y'all what was going to happen. I told y'all 9 years ago, 2009, 14 years ago, how white fear was driving public policy. All these folks scared about black and brown people. Supreme Court last week came down with a decision ending the use of race in college admissions. What do you think happened next? Republicans said, oh, now, no use of race in college admissions. Let's get rid of minority scholarships. That's right. The Speaker of the House in Wisconsin threw this out there. He's the State Assembly Republican Speaker, Robin Vos, suggested he'll move to ban grants designated for minority undergraduate students in Wisconsin. He responded to a tweet claiming a minority scholarship program designated for students who are Black, Indigenous, Hispanic, or Laotian, Vietnamese, or Cambodian descent amounted to discrimination. He said, we're reviewing the decision and will introduce legislation to correct the discriminatory laws on the books and pass repeals in the fall. Education scholar Dr. Mary McConnor, owner and founder of Inclusive Excellence Consulting and hire from Memphis, joins us right now. So, all right, look, this is real simple, Mary, and I keep trying to explain to people what was going to come down, how this thing was going to unfold. Bottom line is, these white conservatives, they hate DEI, they hated multiculturalism, they hated affirmative action, they hate quotas, they hate anything that deals with trying to deal with the issue of race in America.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it is true. And I'll tell you, I used to be a chief diversity officer at a university, and I kind of saw this coming. I'm not anymore, but I still do some DEI work. And when I saw what was happening in Florida with the DEI bans and what happened in Texas, I knew, I was like, okay, they're gaining some momentum here. And, once SCOTUS, made that decision about race-conscious admissions based on affirmative action, I knew, I was like, okay, this is giving them a lot of momentum to say, okay, let's look at everything. Anything that has strategically leveled the playing field for students with historically minoritized identities, we're going to go after it. And so, like I said, unfortunately, while I think it's really unfortunate, a part of me was not surprised. And what I'm hoping that folks don't do is bury their heads in the sand and hope that somebody else solves this problem. I think it's important for us to speak up and say, hey, this is not okay. This is not okay.
Charles Barkley, he announced after the Supreme Court decision that he had changed his will and for $5 million to go to black students. The reality is you can do that when it comes to your private money. But I'm telling you, these folks and many of our people living in these red states, they are going to attack anything that deals with trying to level the playing field.
That's exactly right. And shout out to Chuck, by the way. I'm an Auburn grad, so War Eagle to Chuck. And I did see that announcement come out about him trying to create scholarship opportunities for Black students. But you're absolutely right. And I think right now is a really pivotal time for higher education, right? Because a lot of these schools have said, okay, we're committed to equity and inclusion. We care about our students' success. We want all students to come here. So now it's up to them to decide, okay, well, you made this commitment. What are you going to do to ensure that these students still have access to a quality education, right? Whether it's looking at it from a holistic admission standpoint or figuring out, okay, affirmative action, we know you can't use that anymore for admissions, but what are you going to do to make sure that you are admitting students that you promised to admit and to create opportunities for?
Questions for the panel. Larry, you're first.
Yeah, thank you for, your insight. So I'm in the state of Florida, and I already kind of what Roland talked about. I saw what was happening once the DEI bill went in effect a few days ago, and I talked about the impact it's going to have on minority scholars. But I wonder what your thoughts are about, use the phrase like turning back the clock, so to speak, in terms of what's happened with some of these laws. And I'm curious in terms of how much of a dramatic impact, because Roland's right, this is going to happen. We'll see it in Florida soon. What do you think the generational impact will be as they continue to reverse these scholarships? Now we talk about Wisconsin, Missouri has already announced that they're going to do the same thing. Like I said, the state of Florida, among others, will take the necessary steps. What do you think the generational impact will be, particularly on minoritized communities, once they start pulling back some of these scholarships?
Yeah, I love that you asked that question. And I think generations are going to feel it in the future. And also, I want to point this out, too, as far as the workforce. A lot of workplaces talk about how they want more diversity. And you have to look at the college to workforce pipeline, right? If you don't have diverse students graduating from these colleges and universities, guess what? You're not going to have a diverse workplace. And so not only is it going to impact generations, different, Black and brown and historically marginalized communities, but it's also going to impact the workforce too. And that's why I think it's equally important for all of the employers who have made these commitments to equity and inclusion and to creating opportunities for folks with historically minoritized identities to speak up as well. If they truly are committed to the work, now is the time to make a stance and say, okay, we are going to continue doing what we said we were committed to doing.
Niambi.
So thank you for that. So how do you think this might trickle up, if you will? So they're starting with undergraduates, but we also know that there are different kinds of pipeline programs for graduate education, even faculty hires, right? There are varying ways that faculty of color get hired, and you're still talking about a relative sliver of Black folks in the faculty ranks and certainly in the tenured faculty ranks. So how do you think this kind of moment where they're talking about scholarships for undergraduate students trickle up to these other levels of higher education?
Yeah. And you know what? That's an excellent question. And a lot of colleges and universities, they're already seeing it, right? So at one point, a lot of colleges and universities went to requiring that faculty members and staff members write diversity statements, right? If there was a position open, it was like, okay, tell us your stance on what you think about diversity and inclusion. And a lot of organizations have already taken that away. And then there are some organizations out there in terms of colleges and universities that have already started looking at their hiring processes and saying, okay, maybe we need to get rid of affirmative action as it relates to hiring and recruiting faculty members. So we're already seeing it. And we already know that there's not enough representation at the top, especially in some of those key senior level positions. And I think this is only going to make it worse, right? Because a lot of these positions still require that you have a formal education. I look, fairly regularly at the different jobs that are out there, and most of them still requires a college degree. And so it is a reality that we have to think about, in upper level positions, in the workforce, at colleges and universities. It affects everything.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Teresa.
Yeah, this has been very detrimental to our communities as a whole. I sit on a few boards of educational, so that help youth actually transition. And I'm already seeing the effects. I had a few young ladies that was actually waitlisted at a university I'm not going to name, but I was very, they also kind of quoted the Supreme Court decision about the scholarships and kind of went straight to, here's the FAFSA plan, and versus the actual scholarship and the opportunity. Like they closed the deadline. It was just a weird situation. So I think maybe my question is, will you see more of these undergrads that are trying to transition into, these post-secondary schools going to community college since it is a cheaper option?
I think so. I think we're going to see more undergrads going to community colleges. And you know what else I think we're going to see? I think we're going to see especially Black undergraduate students going to HBCUs. And I'll tell you all, I've always been a strong advocate for HBCUs. I did my dissertation, my doctoral dissertation on historically Black colleges and universities, and just looking at, the student experience there and looking at the faculty experience. And here's what we know. HBCUs are known for creating inclusive environments where students thrive. My thing at this point is, for any student listening to this or any person who's thinking about going to college, consider going where you know that you can thrive. And if you know that an HBCU is going to be the best fit for you, then I want you to consider that option, especially HBCUs. Let's be real. They have been educating Black students for centuries when Black students were not admitted at predominantly white institutions. And so they have always played a pivotal role in our educational system here in the U.S.
So maybe the message is for HBCUs is, as you just made that statement, is to invest more in HBCUs, right? So taking what Charles Barkley did, and since this I don't know how many HBCUs we have in the country. I probably should know that number. But maybe that is a message across the country, is to invest more in HBCUs and looking into their enrollment to make sure that we still have a leg up.
Yeah, I love it.
But here's the deal, Mary. But Mary, here's the deal, though. I mean, and Teresa makes a good point, but I need people to understand numbers, pure numbers. There are 107 HBCUs in the United States. Correct. They have 237,000 students. 20% of them are non-black. There are 1.6 million black students at PWIs.
Correct.
So if 10% of the existing black students go from PWIs to HBCUs, that's nearly half. That's more than half of what the current capacity is. They literally do not have a capacity. North Carolina A&T is the largest HBCU with about 12,000 students. That's it. You've got some mid-size PWIs that are 25,000 students. So when we talk about, again, this shift, we're talking about a shift that's going to require hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars, buildings, dormitories, housing, and that's not going to happen overnight. And so I just want people to understand what the numbers actually look like. I think what happens a lot is when we talk about HBCUs, I think a lot of us actually think they're larger than they actually are.
Yeah. Now, I hear what you're saying, but I still think that HBCUs play a pivotal role when it comes to education. And I do want to go back and say that predominantly white institutions, there are several predominantly white institutions out there that are truly committed to the work, because I've seen it. I've worked in the space. I've worked as a consultant with different institutions. So I'm not saying that every black student should just abandon a PWI tomorrow, like get up and leave. But what I am saying is that if you find that there are institutions out there that are more committed to seeing you succeed than others, then consider that option. I live here in the South part of the country, and I know like there are some schools here that are more committed to it than others. I've seen it. And if you feel like, okay, you know what, I'm going to go out west, I'm going to go to the Midwest, I'm going to go out east to a school that I know where I would feel a sense of belonging, I feel like they care about my success, then that needs to be a viable option. But I think students need to look at all options.
Oh no, absolutely. But what I want folks watching and listening to understand that when we have this conversation, we're talking about pure numbers. Yeah. We saw it this year. Florida A&M, Morehouse, Tennessee State, Texas Southern, numerous institutions, even with the existing capacity, because there's been an increase of folks applying to HBCUs in the last 3 to 5 years, they can't handle the capacity right now. And so we need the public to understand, when we talk about support HBCUs, especially state institutions, that is going to require a massive level of investment, and we must be prepared to argue and actually fight for that investment. Otherwise, you're going to have an increase of thousands of students applying to our HBCUs, and they literally will not be able to take them because they can't handle the capacity.
Yeah. Roland, I agree with you. And so what I view your statement as is a call to action. It's a call to action for us to say, okay, we know that we are potentially going to see an influx of students wanting to apply to historically black colleges and universities. How are we prepared to support this? How are we prepared to support administration? How are we prepared to support the faculty? And most importantly, what kind of resources are we prepared to put behind it? So, I agree with everything you're saying. I do recognize that it's a capacity issue, but I also think that it's important for us to think about how we're going to support these institutions and institutions that are actually committed to supporting black students, brown students, indigenous students, and students with historically minoritized identities.
All right. Well, look, there's definitely going to be a fight all around this country when it comes to these scholarships. Folks, get prepared because it's coming. Mary, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, folks, when we come back, India Arie makes some comments about Essence Fest regarding the performances of Janelle Monae and Meg Thee Stallion. It's got lots of folk talking. We'll show you exactly what she had to say and what the reaction has been when we come back. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. Succession. We're hearing that word pop up a lot these days as our country continues to fracture and divide. But did you know that that idea, essentially a breaking up of the USA, has been part of the public debate since long before and long after the Civil War, right up to today? On our next show, you'll meet Richard Crichton, the author of this book, who says breaking up this great experiment called America might not be such a bad thing. That's on the next Black Table, right here on the Black Star Network.
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Me, Sherry Shepard with Sammy Roman.
I'm Dr. Robin B., pharmacist and fitness coach, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
On my hand and I put it in his hands. He's a friend.
Well, the Hot Girls were in full effect at Essence Fest this weekend. Meg Thee Stallion closed out the festival on Sunday. Of course, the previous night, it was, of course, a great performance by Missy Elliott. But a lot of people are commenting about her last set. In fact, Janelle Monae performed as well on Friday night. That also had some folks talking as well, especially when she flashed her breasts as she was singing about her areola. That was also, again, happening on the stage as well. So today, India Arie made a comment with regards to what took place. So go ahead and pull up her post, which was on Instagram, folks. Pull it up. She goes, the issue is what is context? Humanity does everything, but does everything belong in a stage? No. Is everything for kids? No. Is everything for everybody? No. So when we, as a culture, make something like this mainstream, it shows a lack of discretion and discernment. To those in the comments who laugh at anyone who wants these things for our culture, you certainly have that right. Just as many folks have the right to want our mainstream international export, our music, to show us in a respectful light. I like to go on the record saying this won't age well, and that's my issue. I love Janelle and Meg the way I love us all, and I don't like this moment. Don't bother debating me, LOL. She said, I do this for 25 years. So she had those comments. And then, of course, she also, again, so when the backlash happened and folks were commenting left and right, she then addressed the issue on her stories. Let me go to it real quick here. Okay, give me a second. And so if you go to my iPad, please. So she posted this. So this is happening today. Then she posted, I hate defending simple logic, so I'm going to just say this. This is not an issue with any of my sisters, period. I'm an old school, long-time affirming voice for women. My record speaks for itself. I love humanity, even in all this bullshit, LOL. And all I'm saying is context matters. Debate that if you want, LOL, but I said what I said. And why did I say it? Because just like everyone else, I'm entitled to my option, but also I do this work my whole adult life. The work of uplifting and loving and affirming and supporting the wellness of black women and all people at large. How effective I was, I guess depends on who you ask. For 20 plus years, I ran 100 miles an hour at all times in the name of healing. So when I see something that sparks my personal mission, I speak. There's not scandal here, just one woman's opinion. But what I would never allow is for anyone to paint me as a person who would use other women for kindling in the burning down of the patriarchy. No. I love all female artists because I know firsthand how hard it is to be one. I've released 8 albums and have myself played the Essence main stage 6 times. What I see here is the mainstreaming of cults that, in my honest opinion, should be adult-only entertainment. And I've been saying this same thing for over 20 years. Why? Some could say my ideals created a less successful business model, LOL. But I stand by them because my gut tells me to. So much more to say, but I don't feel like it. I'm in a big real-life moment and having a bunch of stuff going on. Also, in case you missed it, protecting my peace in 2023. She then puts, I'm open for a smart debate or a real conversation, but I don't do this social media self-propel outrage BS. I put me first in my life. I do this for self-care thing for real. Lastly, in case anyone missed it, I do not make a practice of publicly criticizing my sisters. My thoughts are around Essence Festival and context, which really is logic. I'm not addressing this anymore. Peace. Then she goes, why is it so hard for people to understand? It's crazy to me the level of explanation needed. Why is everything a thing? It's you, not me, LOL. All right. So when she talks about its essence, what India is saying there is that Essence Festival has always been about promoting powerful black women, been promoting the image of sisters. And so what she is laying out here is that when you see, because what happened was, and I'm not sure if I shot any of it. Let's see here. So during Megan's set, she called up the audience. She called up different audience members on 3 separate occasions to come on stage and twerk. And that's exactly what happened. And this was actually during her show. And so people were, again, on the stage, and they were dancing. Now, so when she's talking about Essence folks, she's talking about those putting it on. What are you projecting? And then what then began to happen is there are a lot of people who then begin to say, hey, this is not what Essence is all about. I can tell you, as somebody who was sitting center row on the 7th row, literally right in front of the stage, I saw a number of people, older black folks, walk the hell out. There were some who had children with them, teenagers, as they walked out as well. And then, of course, Meg's whole set, every single one of her songs was saying the same thing, what she always talks about. And it all involves sex. So we have to ask the question, okay, your Essence Festival, you had 50 years of hip hop, and you had Jermaine Dupri, you had Ludacris, you had T.I., you had Ice Cube, you had Ice-T, you had Trina, Missy Elliott, all these different acts. The question that we do have to ask ourselves is, are there certain acts that should be in an adult-only space? And the other question is Essence right to promote a Meg Thee Stallion and the show that Janelle Monae put on? Arie says, context. We're taking your phone calls on this. I'm going to go to my panel and discuss this as well. If you want to weigh in, give us a call, folks. 202-890-1199. 202-890-1199. Let us know if you were actually at Essence Fest, if you were actually at Janelle Monae's show or Megan Thee Stallion show, and love to hear that. Uncle Luke did weigh in. I thought this was interesting. So do y'all have his tweet? He goes, so what happened was the folks at Essence posted a video of Janelle Monae showing her breast. He goes, what is this girl going through? She's never been out there like this. Is it a midlife crisis? Then many folks said, really, Luke? You of all people saying this here? All right, let's get into it. Niambe, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on what Arie is saying here in terms of what was presented on that stage.
Well, look, I mean, people have their opinions. I mean, everybody's going to feel differently. I think Essence knew full well what they were doing when they invited Janelle Monae, whose breasts are freely shown on her album that's out right now, and Megan Thee Stallion, whose music has always been very explicit and very adult. So they knew what they were booking. I think, her point about context, I think, can be made about lots of things, because Juvenile was also performing Back That Ass Up at this same Essence. And so I'm always interested when women become the sort of targets for critiques about sexuality and over-sexualization. Now, I don't think Arie was attempting to call out those two women in particular, but I think perhaps she feels like people like my mother feel, or people like my aunties feel, who feel like this isn't the venue. This is crass behavior that should be somewhere else. I mean, I think at this point, we should probably stop being shocked by respectability politics And I think there's a conversation to be had here, but I don't think that anything India Arie said is anything that we haven't heard before or anything that we are unfamiliar with. I think people have very different visions and versions of what their feminism looks like, or what it looks like to uplift and uphold Black women. And I think, you have younger generations who say, we don't actually care about any of that because we have a right to the full range of human expression, even if it's raunchy, even if it's sexy, because quiet is kept. People thought this about Black women before these women even existed. So it doesn't matter whether they come out there with turtlenecks and sway back and forth. People are going to think what they're going to think. So, I mean, I think it's just a difference of opinion that this will never be resolved. I mean, this has been going on for time immemorial.
Teresa, is it respectability politics, though? Because if what I'm hearing is, all right, you're talking about the previous acts that you've seen. Essence is actually, for years, next year's going to be the 30th anniversary of the music festival, for years has really focused on an adult audience. Now you're talking about really a 25-54. So now the question, and obviously, in order to remain relevant, then you still are having popular artists today. So the question then becomes, is this a culture clash between generations, or is the question of saying, okay, because look, I remember Janet Jackson had her show, which was very sexually provocative on stage, but it wasn't as in your face, if you will, with the language as Meg Thee Stallion. And I can compare those two because I was at both. I've been at Essence the last 15, 16 years, and I remember the Janet Jackson set.
Well, personally, I grew up in a very traditional household. So some of the ways, that women are carrying themselves in the music industry, for me, it's just a little bit of distasteful. I feel like, I'm in my 30s. So part of the music that I love was the R&B, the soul, the classics, the India Aries, the Erykah Badu's. And so that type of music actually was empowering. I think, some of the abilities that and the representation that the Essence Fest, which was #RatchetFest, that happened. The comments, I was going back and forth. I mean, personally, again, I'm uncomfortable with, some of the actions because, again, I have men look at me as a beautiful Black woman and think that I am almost like some of the artists that are doing these twerks and expecting me to do whatever, right? They may not be saying it out loud, but some of their attentions are guided towards that practice. And so I will probably say those, the newer generation, yes, they are finding themselves differently. The music is very different. We are rarely hearing music that, is about uplifting and empowering. You may get a line or two out of these nuanced artists, but if we were to go back to basics and we go, to real sold out concerts and what it looked like, it wasn't, all this, sex everywhere, right? And so I think going to your questions about intergenerational pretty much communication with this culture war, not war, but communication may actually look like between the old Essence and maybe the new day Essence. I'm sure Essence is just still trying to find a balance on what that looks like, but we also have to remember the type of artist that has been coming out in the last 10 years, right? And what's been trending. And these type of artists are, some of them are just getting play because they have the most social media followers and now they end up on the main stage versus actually creating music that was really inspiring. So for me, I was, I'm good on both of them. If we really look at the lyrics, and most of these young girls, I'm seeing them twerking, I'm seeing, and I'm talking like young as young as 8 or 9 years old doing this, right? And then they're at school twerking on tables. It's one, yes, I'm looking at the parenting, but then two, it's, this is the type of music that gets you across the finish line. So also me even seeing some of these seasonal, so like Janet Jackson, some of these seasonal artists, go in that direction, and all of a sudden they're wearing, salacious outfits. It's just like, yo, you're like 55. So for me, I'm good. I'm looking just for good music, but I think all the extra stuff where you have to actually sell, not the music or the words, because we can barely hear the lyrics nowadays because of all the tunes and all this other stuff. So it's like more so I'm listening more so for the beat and then looking at this person, how they're dressing. So for me, I'm good on SSFX. I think it missed the mark for me on how it actually interprets, the empowerment of Black women. I didn't feel empowered. More so, I just felt like, great, we're feeding into the narrative on what it takes to actually be in the music industry as a Black woman.
I do not, because what I'm looking for is a video when Jan Jackson performed, and it was the first, it wasn't her last appearance. And I must have it on my laptop, not on my phone. But I do remember 2016 when Ciara performed, and there were some people in the audience who were kind of like, did she just do that on stage? This is what they were talking about. One of the things here, Larry, is artists on stage who are performing. I think when we talk about essence, what you're also looking at is when you have a range of ages that are actually in the audience. And there were teenagers, adults, senior seasoned saints, all in that Superdome. And so that's what I think is also different here, because Essence has so many different acts on the bill that if you stay for all of the concerts, you're talking about a plethora of folks. And so I know some folks who were there for the Ladies of Hip Hop, and they were like, I'm only here for that. And then they bounce the later you got into the show.
Roland, I've been to Essence a few times, and you're right, in terms of the acts that they book, it's for different generations. You like Frankly Beverly and Mays, formerly known as, or if you like Keith Sweat. I'm another example of an artist when we talk about Meg and some of these other female hip hop artists. Roland, I'm old enough to remember 96, 97 when hardcore, Lil' Kim came out with hardcore. So the reason I highlight that is that there's a long tradition, not in the music in general, but hip hop in particular, about certain lyrics that some people might find offensive. But I think that's what's really important here. And I think context matters in terms of Arie when she talked about that, and that there's some forms of music is appealing to some people and not appealing to others. Now, as a parent, I've always told my son, I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I grew up listening to hip hop throughout my life with explicit lyrics, so I don't want to be a hypocrite and say there's certain songs you may not can listen to, but certainly have a conversation about it. But I think overall, when we have this conversation, particularly about Meg and some of the other artists we described, we need to have a conversation in the Black community, particularly how Black women's bodies have been policed, but also have a conversation about what some people find appealing as it relates to music. And depending on your generation, certain things might be okay with you and certain things may not. I think the last point I want to make about Arie's comments, and I think this is really important for people who post on social media, is that you may have an opinion. I have opinions on a lot of different things, but I don't want to post it on social media. She said she knew that it would end going viral when people have thoughts about it. So obviously she was okay with taking whatever critiques people had to offer. But for me, sometimes you think it, you don't always have to post it, and I'll just leave it at that.
All right, folks. First of all, somebody here posted in our message board. Somebody said that, hold on one second. I used to work for Essence Music Festival when it was more toned down. Macy Gray, Chaka Khan, Charlie Wilson, Fantasia, etc. What a time. And again, so all different opinions. Folks, you can weigh in on this by giving us a call, 202-890-1199, 202-890-1199. We'll take your phone calls. Love to hear your perspective. If you were actually there, let me know your thoughts right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
hatred on the streets. A horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Hi, I'm Jo Marie Payton, voice of Sugar Mama on Disney's Louder and Prouder Disney Plus, and I'm with Roland Martin on Unfiltered.
That was some of Meg Thee Stallion on Sunday night at Essence. Folks, again, have been talking about it. Was it too much? Was that improper for the Essence Festival stage? Does it actually speak to black female empowerment? Also, Janelle Monae with her show that some deem to be highly sexual as well. Yvette Thomas, Oklahoma City. Yvette, you're on the air. What's up? What's your comment?
Yes, my name is Yvette Thomas from Oklahoma City, and I think it was totally inappropriate. I feel that women should leave something to the imagination. That's sexy, that's alluring. What they're doing is trashy. I think it was disrespectful to the legacy of Essence, and I think that it's doing nothing but perpetuating the stereotypical assertion of that's given to black women. So it's just trash. It's nothing to me but a pornographic prostitution, live pornographic prostitution show. They're giving the audience the porn, and they're prostituting for the record label, and they're degrading themselves and all black women. Black women are black queens that should act regally. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Yvette. Iris Lee from Wisconsin. Iris, you're on Roland Martin Unfiltered. What's your comment?
Hi. My comment is the Jill Scott anthem. I think you should have led with that. The anthem, the way she worded it, was just, you felt that. That was I didn't attend the Essence Festival. I've seen,
But there was no controversy over her anthem. No, I was there. I know what you're talking about. And folks didn't walk out on her anthem. They did on the Megan performance.
Well, which came first? Let me ask that question then.
What do you mean, which came first? Jill Scott performed on Saturday night.
Megan Thee Stallion?
No, Jill first of all, Janelle Monae.
Scott came first?
No, she did not. Janelle Monae performed on Friday night. Jill Scott performed on Saturday night, and then you had on Sunday Megan Thee Stallion.
Oh, I just think that's a better topic for us to discuss.
But that's not the topic we're discussing, though.
Constantly.
But that's not the topic we're discussing. So it's not a question what's a better topic. The reality is India Arie's comments has led to a lot of conversation on social media about what is right and what is proper and what is respectable for Essence Festival, not Jill Scott's anthem.
Okay.
Okay? All right.
I agree somewhat. It's generational, you know.
Okay. All right, Iris, thanks so much. Heather Richmond from Atlanta, Georgia. Heather, you're on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Hi, I wasn't at the festival, but I did watch it on Hulu. I think the bigger issue is Essence is trying to figure out what they want to be when they grow up or go forward. I did read that Hakeem Holmes, who's now the VP of the festival, is 29, and he's trying to appeal to a younger audience. So in that, if this is what the younger audience wants, clearly that's the direction that they're going to continue to move in. But what they're going to do is isolate what they're calling now it's the Aunties Festival, because those are the women who can afford to go and be at a festival for 3-4 nights and enjoy all of the different amenities that go along with that. So if you do want that particular demo to continue to come, you're going to have to figure out how to make a balance so that they're not exposed to things that they don't necessarily want to participate in, but younger people who find it not the same, aren't offended by it, and who aren't willing, or who are willing to sit through it and actually enjoy it and will want to attend, with the quote-unquote aunties who want to do the other things that Essence offer, but may not necessarily want to participate in those sort of, I'll just say, Megan Thee Stallion-esque sort of activities or concerts.
Okay. All right. I certainly appreciate it, Heather. Thanks a lot. Niambe, the thing here, when you think about the different acts, if you will, okay, and I think this is the thing that people have to look at when you start talking about the performers, and that is there were certainly different performers all throughout the show, all weekend. So it wasn't like you had sort of one genre that took place all weekends. And so I'm trying to sit here. Let me do this here. Let me go. I'm switching iPads here. So folks, hold that B-roll. Let me go to this iPad. Nope, wrong one. Give me a second here. And again, because I think, again, we talk about context. And so this is night one. Night one, you had Lauryn Hill, who closed. Then you had, before Lauryn Hill, you had Dougie Fresh and commemoration of 50th anniversary of hip hop, which featured Big Daddy Kane, EPMD, KRS-One, Slick Rick. Janelle Monae performed as well. Before her, Arie Lennox, Jagged Edge, Tim's, and Toby Nwigwe. And then, of course, you also had hosted by Dion Cole. Now, that was night one. Then when you go to night two, you had the closer, Missy Elliott. Before her, Jill Scott. Before them, you had a celebration of hip-hop from the South, Jermaine Dupri, featuring Big Boy, Gucci Mane, Lil Jon, Ludacris, T.I. Before that, Ice Cube, DJ Quick, E40, Ice-T, JJ Fad, Lady of Rage, Yo-Yo, and also performances by Coco Jones, Monica as well. And so let me go back to, and then, of course, that was night two. Then night three, the close was Meg Thee Stallion. Before her, then you had this curation of the celebration of hip hop by Angie Martinez, which featured Eve, Mia X, Remy Ma, Salt and Pepper, Trina, and then performances by Kiss Daniel, Mooney Long, and others. And so I guess here, bottom line, and this is how a lot of people actually do this, Niambe. They like some artists, and what they'll do is they'll stay to watch them. and then they'll leave and go get something to eat or go to a suite or go somewhere else, and they don't like the particular artist, and then they actually might come back. And so that's also how a lot of people also operate when they're there. I can tell you what typically happens, those early shows, I would say anything from 7 to 9, especially in the front sections, damn near empty. But most people are coming there for the final 3 acts. And so it varies as to how people, so you have all of these different options based upon your musical taste. You don't actually have to stay for all of the concerts.
Absolutely. And what is not for you is not for you. I think it's interesting, again, that we picked out these 2 young women to clutch our pearls. But when you read that list of everyone who was there, multiple people on that list, men included, had very sexually explicit lyrics. Now, if this is a conversation just about that, then that's a conversation we should have. I think it's convenient, right, to talk about the sexiest, the most sort of provocative. But if we're going to have a conversation about the sexualization of Black people and Black women in particular, then let's have that conversation and sort of not pick out these 2 artists as the sort of scourge of the Black community, if you will. And I'm not suggesting that India Arie was trying to say that. But yes, I mean, people will call them trashy people. I mean, like the caller did, people will call them all kinds of things. But again, it's all about what your taste is. And if this is not for you, you shouldn't go see them. And I'm not suggesting that you shouldn't be able to go to any of the concert. There clearly were a lot of different kinds of artists to select from if it was your fancy. But again, Meg Thee Stallion and Janelle Monae and some of these other people are not making music for everybody. I too am young enough to remember when hardcore came out, and we had the same conversations about Little Kim and Foxy Brown. We had a lot less energy for the Lukes of the world. And some of these other, men who were also making sexually explicit lyrics. But nonetheless, this conversation will be a conversation that we will continually have, because I think it's unfair to sort of lay the sort of burden and the stigma of Black women's over-sexuality or over-sexualization at the feet of these young women, when again these ideas about who we are sexually and otherwise have been around for centuries. And it didn't matter whether we were covered up, it didn't matter whether we were sort of nude in the way that we might have been traditionally. The sexualization of Black women is not going to stop because some Black women decide to cover up, or some Black women decide to change the lyrics in their song. I think these performers have a right to present themselves how they want to. If the marketplace doesn't want it, the marketplace won't buy it. But there is clearly an audience there. And so, yes, some people walked out, but I'm sure there were others who stayed because this is what they wanted to see and wanted to hear on their at their Essence experience. I do think this is a classic situation of trying to please too many people, if you will, because the audience in age is going to range quite largely. And so what a person like my mother would want to see and what I want to see and what my niece wants to see are not going to be the same. I think this is one of those moments.
Teresa,
trying to make money.
Teresa, I think also what you're dealing with here as well is again, let's just look at just pure numbers. Essence Festival is going to be 30 years old next year, okay? So that means if you went to your first Essence when you were 25 and somebody posted the first lineup, man, I wish I could find it. I forgot who tweeted that. And it was the first lineup. And it was Luther Vandross, it was Frankie Beverly and Mays, it was just a number of Gladys Knight. And so if you were 25 when Essence first started, you're now 54. And what you've always had adult R&B artists. Then in the last several years, then you've seen Chance the Rapper, you've seen Kendrick Lamar, last year Nicki Minaj closed. And so you've seen a migration of those artists. You had the compilation of Bad Boy, you had the compilation of Master P, and his group as well. And so the issue that Essence has to deal with, you have extreme loyalty from a whole bunch of people who've been riding with you for a long time, who've been buying tickets, but you also want to have a 40th and a 50th Essence Festival because it generates 90% of the profits for the company.
You're right, and that's the question they have to answer. I mean, but if you were to do a recap video from the 25 years ago till today, of what we just saw at Essence Festival, it's two different reactions. Like, I'm not, coming to a concert to look at people shake their behinds all day. It's not making sense. If I wanted to do that, I could probably just go to a strip club or something. But I think the essence of Essence Festival for me was that bold, beautiful, saturated music, that really touched souls. They had, really good artists. They had really good conversations. And I think now it's more so, I'm looking at artists that more so look like performers than the artistry of it. And so for me, like I said before, I'm standing, and I was getting some text messages about this, just like, oh, you need to express yourself more. And I'm like, I am being expressive just with my clothes on. So I think there's, as Essence is trying to figure out, the best way to figure out, maybe it's Essence 2, right? Essence Fest 2, like for a younger generation. But I think the original Essence Fest, they need to stick to branded messaging because, audience, even the age bracket, I'm sure I'm not alone when I'm in my 30s, still hoping and wishing that we still had that, like bring her, she's a great artist. There's other artists that aren't doing what we just seen that are really, streaming charts and really, impacting a little differently than what we are. So I just think Essence Fest should really just be the example of what they used to be than something that they're trying to graduate to in order to reach another audience.
I'm going to come to you in a second, Larry. I want to go back to the phone lines here. Terrence Jackson from South Carolina. Terrence, what's your comment?
So me and my wife were actually talking about this. We were in attendance at the Essence Festival. And number one, the concert is way too damn long, getting out at 2 a.m. in the morning, 2:30 in the morning. Honestly, like by the time you got to Sunday, I honestly think that the majority of people that were walking out, they were just tired. I think the Little Wayne surprise concert just kind of like wore a lot of people out. But if you go back to Saturday, even like in the seats and everything, you saw all different types of women that were kind of twerking and backing it up in their seats. Pretty much everybody was vibing. So I really think that we just need to be open to how women have evolved. And there's different kinds of women. You could see that there were like different age groups of women and men that were there at the concert, which this was our second time attending the festival. We saw more of like our age group. I'm 38. My wife is 36, but you saw more like mid-20s, early 30s that were there. And so there were people that were vibing with Meg Thee Stallion on Sunday, even though we left, but we were just tired at the end of it. But it was a good time. I just think people just need to be open to like where we are all going, and we're just not the same. And there's different musical tastes for everybody. But, there was a vibe for anybody that came, just like you mentioned earlier. The lineup was so diverse that you could literally pick and choose who you wanted to see and how you wanted to see them.
All right, appreciate it. Thanks a lot. But let me say this about all the people who are complaining about it going long. We're going to go to a break. We're going to come back. Y'all, this ain't the first damn time Essence Fest been long. It's not. Listen, the first concert starting around 7, okay? The last one's going to end around 1:30. You don't have to stay there all 6.5 hours. You don't have to, okay? And so if you actually want to stay all 6.5 hours, take your ass to sleep, take a nap. I've been going 16 years, okay? And I've been there from the beginning to the end. I didn't leave early either night. I left early last year. I thought Nicki Minaj, I couldn't deal with the lip syncing. Sorry. But again, that's what you're dealing with here. So, y'all, the whole point of diverse lineup is to give you lots of options. I know a lot of people who said, yo, I'm skipping Friday night. I don't want to see Lauren. I don't want to see Janelle, but I want to be there for Missy. And so those things happen. And so this is what happens. The reality is you cannot have an event that's going to please everybody when you're talking about multiple demographics, even among African Americans. But I also think India Arie is also talking about, when we keep talking about the music and the festival, she's also talking about the music industry and what is being presented. So hold tight 1 second. We'll take more of your phone calls, 202-890-1199, 202-890-1199. I got a question for Larry. We get back as well. Folks, you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Star Network. Missy Elliott, man, she did it. Here's some more of the video of her show, y'all. It was just crazy, her show. Let's go to it. Come on, click. Thank you. It was crazy. I mean, just absolutely just crazy. If you watched it on Hulu, it was fantastic, y'all. And so, just phenomenal show. And again, her show was different from Jill Scott, which was different from Dougie Fresh and the Hip Hop Cats. And so that's how it is. All right, folks, we'll be back on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
My early days on the road, I've learned, well, first of all, as a musician, I studied not only piano, but I was also drummer and percussion. I was all city percussion as well. So I was one of the best in the city on percussion.
There you go.
Also studied trumpet, cello, violin, and bass, and any other instrument I could get my hand on. And with that study, I'd learned again what was for me. I learned what it meant to do, what the instruments in the orchestra meant to each other in the relationships.
Right.
So that prepared me to be a leader. That prepared me to lead orchestras and to conduct orchestras. That prepared me to know, to be a leader of men, they have to respect you and know that you know the music. You have to be the teacher of the music. You have to know the music better than anybody.
There you go.
Right, so you can't walk in unprepared.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Your money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hi, my name is Freddie Ricks. I'm from Houston, Texas.
My name is Sharon Williams. I'm from Dallas, Texas.
Right now, I'm rolling with Roland Martin, unfiltered, uncut, unplugged, and undamn believable. You hear me?
All right, welcome back to Roland Martin Unfiltered. All right, y'all, so I was telling you about, it was Mark Morial who tweeted out the original lineup. He was the mayor of New Orleans when it happened, y'all. And so, again, I just want to put, for the purpose of this context, I'm going to go to Larry, then go to the phone calls. This was the original lineup. Are y'all seeing it? This was the original lineup at the first Essence Festival 29 years ago. This was it right here. As you see, y'all, you had Luther Vandross, Gladys Knight, Patti LaBelle, Anita Baker, Boyz II Men, Barry White, B.B. King, Mary J. Blige, the OJs with Gerald Levert, Aretha Franklin, Maze featuring Frankie Beverly, Earth, Wind & Fire, Gerald Albright, and Aaliyah. So, Larry, looking at that, Aaliyah was the youngest person performing. If you want to talk about what was appealing to a younger audience at that time, obviously, Boyz II Men, but this is sort of what they're up against. You've had this allegiance from grown folk who've grown up with R&B music, and you just sort of have a clash of taste, if you will. Larry?
I think what's interesting about that list, and we talked about the individuals that performed the last a couple of days ago, is also it kind of talk about the black community and black music in general, which is always evolving. So I didn't see any hip hop artists on that list, which is interesting. And now you talked about it is essentially, obviously, with the 50th anniversary of celebrating hip hop, so obviously there's a focus, but also anchored in some of the more recent hip hop artists in terms of Meg and some of the other folks that you mentioned.
Remember, this is 1995. Remember, this is 1995. I mean, even though hip hop, I mean, let's just be clear. Who are you? Look, if we really want to have this conversation, it's a lot of places they were not trying to have hip hop artists. There's a certain crowd they did not want to have there. You look at this lineup, they were appealing to grown-ass people.
Yeah, people who had jobs and money.
Right. I mean, yeah.
They had mortgages. So you're right. They were specifically looking for a particular kind of crowd. And as Essence has evolved and black music has evolved, and so I think I want to note, Roland, we talk about a generation age groups. There are people in their 40s and 50s rocking with Meg now. Let's be clear. So I think that's really important. Once again, we talk about the history of hip hop. So so obviously 29 years ago, they were certainly looking for a certain, in terms of, black folks with a certain socioeconomic background, so to speak, who had deep pockets, had some money in there, who could spend on hotels and the show, et cetera. But once again, that it is evolved in terms of who you're trying to attract. So now they're trying to attract a younger generation. And in that last 29 years, hip-hop's popularity has exploded. So once again, they're being consistent with who you're trying to attract.
Well, which also explains, look, that's why you had Tim's and other Afrobeat artists on. You didn't have any Afrobeat artists on the lineup 5 years ago. But how musical taste changed. I want to go to the phone lines. Rakesh from Harlem. Rakesh, what's up?
Hello?
Here.
Hello?
Yes, you're on the air.
Oh, yeah, this is Eric from Harlem. I want to say that Essence knew what they was getting into when they booked Megan and when they booked Janelle. If Essence felt that way, they shouldn't have booked them. They knew what they was getting into when they booked them, and they knew that the younger generation was there, and they wanted the money. So they can't have it both ways. If they felt any kind of way, or if anybody that was there felt any kind of way, then why did Essence book them in the first place then?
Well, first of all, the criticism is not coming from Essence. It's coming from attendees and also the comments from India, Arie. But I get your point. We surely appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Marquez Gutner from Dallas. Marquez, you're on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
How you doing? How you doing, Roland?
Doing great.
My thought is the line. It seems like year after year, they keep pushing the line. So what's going to happen when some young brother is up there on stage and he pulls out something that is not expected to be pulled out? It seems like that's where.
Like hold up. Like what? A joint? Because guess what? Lil Wayne, his performance.
No.
He lit up he lit up on stage.
Right. Well, I'm not talking about a job. I'm talking about the sexual orifice.
I got it. Well, guess what? Guess what? Janelle Monae showed her areola. Lil Wayne performed with his shirt off.
Okay.
I'm telling you, Howard. Hold up.
I'm talking about the jump.
You think I'm lying? Let me find you a photo.
But that's where it's going. That's where it's going.
Okay.
I think that's we're gonna be shocked one day when that happens, and so, you know, what are people? How are people gonna react when that happens?
Got it.
You know, because you just see it coming.
All right.
Yeah.
Marquez, thanks a lot. Bill Smith from California. Hey, Bill. You're on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
This is a very important topic. Can you hear me?
Yep, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Sorry. My feelings on this subject is this. I don't think I think Arie is absolutely correct. This is not for everybody. We got black people, young black people out here trying to raise children. Our black people are up against enough trying to raise children. Well, I would be willing to bet there are not very few black people out there that would allow their children to be twerking at 13, 14 years old, putting their breasts out, this and that and the other. A short story. My son I have two grandkids. One of my grandkids was here one day, and it was singing a song, and he was 3 or 4 years old, and he happened to say, "Back your ass up." My grandson turned around and wanted to jump all over him. I said, whoa, time out. Where did he get that from? You're the one playing the music. You know, so, I mean, I'm not against this. They could have this, but there should be a time and a place for everything. They should announce, this is going to be a hip-hop show tonight. This is going to be this tonight. And so parents say, oh, no, we're not going to the hip-hop show. Then the kids come home, they want to sneak on their phones and watch this crap and so forth and so on. It's not good. Thank you very much for allowing me to express my opinion. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks a bunch. Go to my iPad. This is Lil Wayne performing with no shirt on. So just want to let y'all know he was showing his areola as well. Rob Jennings from Benton Harbor, Michigan. Rob, you're on Roland Martin Unfiltered. What's up? All right. We got a couple of calls up I want to go to. I mean, look, the thing you said, Nyambe, is very clear. I mean, literally in the history of music, there have always been there's been this discussion. Hell, gospel music. There were folk who said, Thomas Dorsey, what are you doing? And then when the Winans did their music, what are you doing? When the Clark Sisters hit song was a club hit during the disco era, folks said sacrilegious. You've had that. I just think what you're dealing with here, when you have an event where you have multiple generations, you're going to have that clash, especially when for a long time, you can always count on there being R&B artists who didn't shake that ass, who didn't use lyrics like, look, I've said, like, literally, I did, I'm gonna tell you right now, I did crack a joke around the folk around us with Megan performing. I said, hey, does Megan have any songs where it don't involve beat the pussy up? Yes, I said that. Because that's like literally, we were sitting there and I was cracking up laughing. I was kind of like, do all the lyrics sound the same? And the folk, we were all cracking up laughing. But that's literally her style, who she appeals to. Her songs are not like a multiple range of Beyonce. That's not her lane.
It's not. But I also think, look, I think it's interesting that people clutch their pearls over rappers in particular because there are very explicit R&B songs. They sound different to the ear, perhaps even nicer. But they
don't use the explicit language.
But when Aaliyah says age ain't nothing but a number, throwing down ain't nothing but a thing, what was that about? Because the 95 Aaliyah was married to a Robert Kelly who was an adult man. Yeah. So we can talk about, I'm just saying, there are ranges of things that we can discuss. Yes. We can kind of opine about a time when it was kinder and gentler, but the music of 1995 was still very sexual. I remember listening Doggy Style in my mother's car and getting in trouble because of the lyrics of Snoop songs. So I just think we have a long-standing discussion that comes up year after year. But in this event in particular, I think people do feel a certain kind of ownership around it and feel like there should be borders, right? That this is an uplifting women empowerment event and these people don't fit. But I think while we're doing that and pointing our fingers, we have to be very careful not to reify these same stereotypes and to do the good woman, bad woman thing. I don't think that's helpful either. And I don't like the language that people are using to talk about these people because one, neither Meg Thee Stallion or Janelle Monae are children. They don't make music for children. And I think the last caller was just right, which is if children are hearing these things, then we need to talk to parents about them. But I was a kid too. We're all going to listen. I listened to dirty Millie Jackson records when I was a kid. I didn't have any business listening to. So kids will find a way. Nonetheless, you know, this sort of hand-wringing about the children, all that always comes up over and over and over again. But again, the lineup was announced in advance. People knew who were going to be there. People had an opportunity to listen to their music in advance and say, I don't want to participate in this. This is not my crowd. I'm going to go to Missy or I'm going to go see Dougie Fresh, but the rest of it, I'm going to leave. I just think this is a hard thing to do. Because like you said, you have people who've been going for the last 30 years. You have people who do feel ownership about what this ought to be, right? What this should look like, how women should present themselves. And I just think it's going to be a tussle.
Diambe, one of the YouTube folks said Aaliyah was singing "Aging Nothing But a Number" in some big ass baggy clothes. Larry, what's your comment? Larry, what's your comment?
Even a little bit funny.
Larry, what's your comment?
With a full-grown
hold on. You said that. I'm just reading what the comment was. Larry, your comment.
This is an ongoing, like Dr. Carter talked about, this is an ongoing topic in the Black community about what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. Also want to highlight, we talked about, you talked about Luke a little earlier. I'm also old enough to remember Two Live Crew and how they used to set it off in their concerts. And then, obviously them being arrested and challenges they faced their concerts throughout the United States.
But I don't think they ever were on the Essence stage.
Oh, no, they didn't mess. No, they weren't going to make it on
That's, hold on, but see that, but again, no. I just want everybody to understand. I'm going to give y'all a story. Matter of fact, damn, I need to find the photo. And it's a true story. So Uncle Charlie was performing and Trey Songz stopped by his dressing room. And I think Trey performed the previous night. And I dropped by the dressing room. I got to find the photo. And so I was, of course, I was clean. Uncle Charlie was clean. And so Trey Songz said, man, both of y'all clean. And this is exactly what Uncle Charlie said. He said, Trey, it's some grown-ass people out there. He said, and when you sing in front of grown-ass people, you need to dress like you talking to grown-ass people. Because Trey had on some jeans. I think when he performed, he had a wife beater on the stage, which he took it off. So the following year, Trey Songz was back. Trey came out in a tuxedo. I think he eventually got out of the tuxedo. So he's backstage. He had hurt his ankle on stage. So I go into the dressing room, and I said, I see you rocking that tuxedo. He said, oh, I was listening to you and Uncle Charlie last year. So the point I'm making is, that's really, I think, the clash we're having here. Even when you've had younger artists, others who's always said, hey, this is who that Essence audience is. What we have to accept, though, is that the Essence audience changes. And so the question then becomes, do you change? And you grapple with that. And I can tell you, talking with people who the previous owners of Essence, they also grappled with, look, it was a battle when they decided to stop inviting Frankie Beverly and Maze. Ed Lewis said, as long as I am running Essence, Frankie Beverly and Maze will always close Essence Festival. Always. I think for like 15 plus straight years, they were there. There was a point when they didn't invite them back. And it was a huge controversy because they were saying we have to also evolve. And so this discussion, they've actually had, in Essence, internally, what type of artists, when do you invite them, when are we ready, because you're appealing to different folks. That is it for us. To the rest of the caller couldn't get to you, I'm sorry about that. Niambe, thanks a bunch. Larry, thanks a bunch. Teresa, thanks a bunch. She had to go as well. Folks, great conversation. We appreciate all the dialogue. Be sure to share this here. Look, this conversation ain't gonna end. It ain't gonna end. And so in India, Arie, she ain't backing down. But the reality is, I get her point 100% of what she's saying. But also I'm saying that what you're dealing with here is you're dealing with an event that's multi-generational. You're gonna have this conflict always. Folks, be sure to support us in what we do, because guess what? Ain't nobody else having this conversation. ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, they ain't having this conversation. Okay, that allows for all the multiple viewpoints in here. It ain't happening. This is why you must support Black-owned media. Download our Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Also, please join our Bring the Funk fan club. Your dollars are crucial. I cannot tell you how important it is. We are fighting the good fight for the advertising dollars, but y'all, it is not an easy fight. I can guarantee you. And so your giving matters. Your giving has sustained us in a huge way. And so please send check and money orders to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com, and be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Available at bookstores nationwide. Buy it online. Download your audio copy on Audible. That's it. I'll see you tomorrow, right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. All right, folks, y'all take care. Holla! Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.